local history, local culture, local events, your community. This is the Joe Kelly Show.
And welcome to the show, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Anna D'Ambrosio is our guest. We're going to be talking about, well, what used to be Munson Williams Proctor Institute. It's got a new name. We'll talk about that name. We'll talk about how it got to the point where it is now and all kinds of other things that they're planning for what used to be Munson Williams Proctor Institute, but is now
Munson. Welcome to Munson.
Yeah, and welcome to the show. Thanks for
Joe.
joining us. How did this come about? I mean, it's been Munson Williams Proctor Institute for as long as I can remember.
Well, actually, since 2001, it's been Munson Williams Proctor Arts Institute.
Okay.
So
I never called it that.
No, right. What did you call it, Joe?
I called it Munson Williams.
Munson Williams, right.
Yeah.
Right. So this has been about a 5-year process. We started with focus groups in 2018 and 2022. We met with members of Munson. We met with community groups. We did digital surveys. We had conversations with staff, with the colleagues, of course, with the Board of Trustees. So it's been a long, very, very thoughtful process.
Let me stop you there. Before it got to the process, did something happen that somebody said, we need to look into this? I mean, what
Sure,
was, yeah.
Absolutely. 10 syllables and hyphenated. I mean, that sounds very glib, but the truth of the matter is no one used our name thoroughly, no one used it accurately, people mixed up the surnames, no one understood the meaning behind the surnames, except a small group of people maybe in our immediate community. But even in our own community, people had their pet name for us, Munstitute, right? Because it was easier, quicker to say one solid word. And when you get outside of our region and think about our Museum of Art collection, right? It's an internationally recognized collection, and we had no brand equity. No one got the name right and was able to use it thoroughly. And so we really started to think about, okay, if we want people to know who we are, if we want to better represent our community and our organization and everything our organization does, right? Because we have the museum, we have the college program with Pratt, we have community arts, we have live performances, we have films. We want to unify all of that, and we want to stick with our mission of creating experiences, transformational art experiences for our community. Really, truly believing in all of the research we did, how art unites the community, and how we wanted a name that also united Munson Williams. Munson, no, I can't even, I've got to correct myself, right?
Well,
got to get used to it.
Well, you do have to get used to it. And I was talking to some organization the other day, and I was referring to the United County Historical Society. Well, it hasn't been the United County Historical Society for a few years now, but old habits die hard, and that's going to be part of your mission to make that transformation. But before we get to that, how you're going to do that, you went to these focus groups, and they told you that it was just too burdensome, the name, or?
That they were not, people did not use the name accurately. They didn't understand the meaning behind the name. And so we wanted to have one strong name and one strong brand identity that would represent the entire organization.
So how'd you start the process? What was the first thing you did?
So we started the process with a lot of research, as I alluded to. And then we condensed all of that research and picked out the major themes. We worked with a national branding agency, Order, based in Brooklyn, New York. And we interviewed about 13 different firms before we landed with Order. And so they had a consultant who did a lot of that survey work and brought it together for us. And then we sat down as a branding committee and analyzed all of that research. And we probably looked at, I don't know, a dozen, 2 dozen names. And it was always an option not to change the name, right? So it was never like, well, we have to do this. It was, okay, how can we better represent ourselves as an organization, have a stronger representation that unifies the organization and is inherently part of the organization. The name Munson runs through all 3 generations of our founding family. So it was really important in the research that this branding firm did. They researched our vision, our mission, our 2019 strategic plan, and then they researched the vision and mission of our city and of our county and how we fit into all of that. And we are honoring our past. We know everything that we are doing with this new brand is inherently part of that organization, and we are bringing the past with us as we look to a bold future.
Well, it's interesting you put it that way. Really, the start of Munson, Williams, Proctor, those people who were so generous to the community, started with Alfred Munson.
Right.
That's where it all started.
Right. Alfred Munson came to Utica in the 1820s. His daughter, Helen Munson Williams, married James Watson Williams in 1846. They had 2 daughters who survived to adulthood, Rachel and Mariah, and Rachel's name is Rachel Munson Williams, and they married Proctor brothers, half-brothers.
Right. And Alfred Munson, if I recall my history correctly, and if I don't, you do, made his money a variety of ways. Burstones, I think was...
Yep, burstones used for grinding grain. He was involved in shipping along the canal system.
Yeah.
He also invested in the railroad system. And so he was quite an entrepreneur.
And when the Proctor brothers, the half-brothers, they had money, but nothing like on the young women's side. They had the real money. So
Helen Munson Williams inherited both her father's estate and a good portion of her brother Samuel's estate as well.
And I wrote a column once about this, and I said we could be happy that the Proctors, Mariah and Rachel, had no children, because had they had children, we might not have had Munson Williams Proctor Arts Institute.
Right. They both married late in life. Mariah and Tom did have one stillborn son, and all of the family is buried up at Forest Hill Cemetery.
Yeah, and they were quite the generous family, quite the philanthropic
Incredibly
family.
Philanthropic. Helen truly instilled in her daughters the importance of philanthropy and the importance of arts. And I think it is that theme that carries through to the founding of Munson. Helen kept meticulous records. We've probably talked about that before. Yeah. And the girls got allowances, and she deducted. They've had to forfeit if they misbehaved, but also part of their allowance every week went to charity.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
it was instilled early on, and the other thing that the 2 sisters and the 2 brothers had in common was collecting.
Right.
Both sides collected. Well, maybe if we get a second, we'll talk about
Great.
their collections. Anna D'Ambrosio is our guest. We're talking about the new name change at Munson, and I guess when you talk about Munson, you're talking about Alfred Munson, right? Or no?
Well, again, that name is a strong name that runs through all 3 generations of the family. We wanted to be sure that we continue to honor the family. That's really important to us. Joe, we've known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think that you could vouch for no one feels as strongly about this family as I do. I've researched and worked with the family collections for over 30 years.
Yeah.
So we will continue to honor that family in everything we do at Munson, in our galleries, in our collections, in our acquisitions. And the name change is a DBA, is a doing business as. So we have not changed legally the name of the organization. So it will remain Munson Williams Proctor Arts Institute, and all of our legal documents, we are chartered by the State Education Department. The State Education Department certified the DBA. They, did that paperwork and voted on it in February. So we will be Munson.
Part of this too is some green space, some public green space. When we come back, maybe we'll talk a little bit about that. Short break, right back. And welcome back, everybody. We're talking about Munson. That's the new name for Munson Williams Proctor Arts Institute, and who better to talk to that about than the woman sitting across from me. Any pushback from the community? I mean, this has been the name for a long time. Any pushback?
I think change is hard in any community. I think that what we want to emphasize more than anything is that the mission and the vision of the organization is not changing at all, and that we will continue to honor all three generations of our founding family. That's inherent to what we do at Munson.
Was there any disagreement on the board about the name or changing the name? Or
No, everyone felt very strongly that this was a positive move move for the organization and ultimately for the community, because when we can better market ourselves, it helps everyone around us.
Yeah. The collection, the world famous collection that you have down there, and what's the, it just went out of my mind, Anna, is it the Four Seasons?
The Voyage of Life.
Voyage of Life,
Right.
yes, yeah.
Right.
There's only 2 sets of those, I believe. One
Right.
here and one in Washington?
Right, we have the first set of 4 paintings, allegorical paintings that Thomas Cole painted in
Thomas Cole.
1839 and 40, and the second set is at the National Gallery.
Right. Now, I was down in the National Gallery once, and it was so, I don't know if exciting is the right word, but it made me kind of proud that
Yeah,
here,
absolutely.
you know, and I told the person taking us around, we've got these up in Utica, New York. Anyway, the collection really started with Helen Munson, yes?
It did. She was the active collector in the family. You know, Alfred had some artworks and sculptures in their home, but Helen was an avid collector in the last quarter of the 19th century until the time that she died in the 90s. But she collected European paintings, especially French material. She collected decorative arts. She was just really avid and very thoughtful about what she collected. And one of the wonderful things, the papers for the family survive at the Oneida County History Center. And having read all of those papers, Helen's are especially fruitful because they have a dialogue. She would write to a dealer in New York City about a painting she was interested in, keep a copy of that letter, and then have the response from the gallery. So you can see this whole dialogue and evolution. Then she gave her collection to her 2 daughters, Rachel and Mariah, and they added to the collection when they were married to Frederick and Thomas Proctor. And then the Proctor brothers themselves collected European timepieces. So we have 300 watches in the collection that Frederick and Thomas, and all of selections of this are always on view in the Museum of Art and in our founders galleries in Fountain Elms, where we tell that family history, that story about them and their involvement with Munson and our community. And then we have the Proctor collection, which was, I don't know, about 1,500 objects that are the foundation for the museum's collection of over 12,000 objects today.
They didn't they collect also the Proctor's autographs?
They did.
Yeah.
They had several series of autograph collections, and we do have one still in our archives.
Yeah, and why do I want to say that there was, it's been a while since I've been over to Fountain Elms, but they had, the women had, was it spoons or?
Spoons and thimbles.
Yeah.
So the 2 couples, Fred and Rachel and Mariah and Tom, traveled extensively, and so they collected thimbles and souvenir spoons.
Will Fountain Elms be caught up in this name change at all?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. They, those founders galleries where we tell that family history will remain as they are.
And there's also a plan, is there not, for a family gallery? I think you put it that way on the website, a family gallery?
Oh, yes. So we have a campus master plan. You know, when I think about the founding families and when we opened to the public in 1936, or when they chartered us in 1919, they never could have envisioned how much the organization has grown, right? From their initial collection of, you know, about 1,500 objects to an internationally recognized museum collection of 12,000. Or they left us 2 family homes, Fountain Elms, and then Mariah and Tom's house that was next door, and then the 2 stables. So we started with 4 buildings. Now we are 25 buildings on 10 acres.
Yeah.
So we have grown exponentially. ourselves. And what we have done is, parallel to doing the branding research, we started a campus master plan. And again, both of these come out of our 2019 strategic plan. And the campus master plan is not public yet, we're just publishing it.
Okay.
We wanted to look at how we can better serve our community. So how we can reconfigure spaces, update spaces to better serve the greater Utica community and beyond. So one of the ideas, for example, is to move the Art Odyssey, which is our interactive family gallery, upstairs off the sculpture court, where the children's room, near where the children's room was decades ago.
Okay.
And to make it bigger, livelier, more engaging. We're also talking about the campus green spaces and how can we identify ourselves better as a campus, because I don't think people think of us as a campus, right? They think of the Genesee Street facade when they think of Munson. But to make those green spaces more inviting for the neighborhood and easier for people, for visitors, students, community art students to move around, just warmer, more welcoming. And then we have a downtown revitalization grant as part of the Utica's DRI. And we're re-landscaping the front of Genesee Street. And it's interesting, I keep saying we're re-landscaping, but so much we're bringing it back to what it was when the Museum of Art opened in 1960.
Yeah, explain what that's going to be. I'm not sure I've got a good
So
picture
think
of
about,
that.
if you're facing the museum, and think about all of the lawn that goes from Cottage Place down to 324 Genesee Street, right? There used to be a bank building and some building that Munson owns. So the building to the left of Fountain Elms.
The one they're using for a dance studio?
Right, it's a dance studio and also part of our Pratt Munson program. We have
Okay.
studios in there. So it's the biggest expanse of green space there is along Genesee Street. And over the years, with the renovations that we have done and the building that Munson has done, the museum education wing, for example, we've lost trees to blight, we've taken down trees, and now it's just kind of a barren open space. So we're going to bring that back to make it a more park-like setting, which is what Philip Johnson's original intention was.
The architect.
Yep, the architect of the main museum building. Plant trees, benches, flowers. We're reconfiguring a little bit how we do the arts festival to make it a little bit more visitor-friendly. So some of that will start this summer, but the big transition will happen in summer of '24.
Okay. The summer festival will continue on.
Yes, it
but
will.
Maybe
Absolutely.
just in a different setting?
We'll still be on the front lawn.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All
Yep.
right. We're going to take a quick break. We come back, we'll be talking more about Munson, and we're going to have to get used to using that name, but it's an easier name to use. Short break, right back. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us. Anna D'Ambrosio is our guest. She is the president of Munson, and that's what we're talking about. This summer, what do you got coming up for your summer program? As long as I got you here, I might as well ask you about that.
Oh, sure. We have a great summer exhibition called Sporting Life, and it's 150 years of women's sporting fashion, and it's going to take up 2 floors of the Museum of Art.
And what about the festival? When is that going to be? Do you have a date for
The
that?
festival's in July.
Okay.
Yes, the third week in July. July 23rd. Thank
Okay,
you. Getting a
yeah.
little cue there for me, right?
That's good. Take all the help you can get.
And it's a little different this year because it's starting on a Sunday with the car show. So that's a little bit of a
Yes,
change for us.
it is.
Usually we end with the car show, but we had competing events, car show events. And so we're starting with the car show on a Sunday and running through from Sunday for a week.
Now you've got an icon there.
I do. It's our new icon.
Okay. And did that take some work to come up with that, I guess, huh?
Well, when we did all that research, we talked about it at the beginning of our conversation, a lot of that, we came down really about arts uniting community, and we wanted to have a name that united the organization, right? And in the brand firm, in doing their research and looking through our archives, they spent a lot of time in the archives. They looked at, took a bird's eye view of the city, and the Philip Johnson building is very distinct, centrally located in the city, centrally located in downtown. And they looked at the grid at the top, looking at the rooftop image of the Museum of Art, and thought about, oh, there's many pieces brought together as a whole. That building is iconic. It's on the state and national historic registers. And they said, wow, that grid really is talking about many pieces making a whole, art uniting a larger community, a new name uniting Munson, and it seemed to be the perfect symbol for us. And very similar to historic symbols that we have used in the past.
Yeah. You know, I've been staring at that, and it reminds me of something, but I just can't get it in my head what it is, but I forgot
Think about arts and unity.
Yeah, okay. The program, the name change, is going to be something that doesn't happen overnight. Do you have a plan on how you get this embedded in people's minds?
Sure. You know, change is always a challenge for people. You know, I think I already used the older name once. I know, just once. So over time, a lot of banners are going up. We're doing a lot of marketing, redesigning our publications. So I think it would just take time. But you know what I found yesterday at the launch party, excuse me, I should say Tuesday at the launch party, was that the 550 people who were there, the number of people who came up and said, oh, you know, I used Munson anyway. And I said, great. It just reinforces that everyone shortened the name because it was a mouthful. And we often use MWPAI.
Yeah.
Right, that was awkward. I want to tell you a little bit about the font, if you don't mind, about the word symbol for Munson. So again, everything we did was inherent to the organization, and there was so much research behind it. And so the branding firm, spending a lot of time on our campus and going through all of our buildings, started to look at all of the lettering that we use. And they noticed the very distinct lettering throughout the Museum of Art building, because we've maintained that 1960s lettering, which was done with hand stencils and hand stenciled and hand cut metal letters as well. And they did research to discover, which something we didn't know, that font was designed by a woman named Elaine Lustig Cohen, who had a design firm with her husband and then on her own. And Philip Johnson was one of her first clients. And so Elaine Cohen designed that font in 1960, used throughout our building. So the brand firm took those letters wherever we had them, telephone, fire extinguisher, staff only, took all those different letters. They created digitally a revival font just for us. So again, in that name, in that word symbol, we are representing our history, and we were delighted to find out so much about Elaine Cohen. And now we have an exhibition about her on view in the Museum of Art.
Where is she from?
Based in New York City.
Okay. And the exhibitions you got up now are, well, you've got your permanent exhibition.
We've got a permanent collection. We have Insight, a photography show is on view. We have the exhibition about Elaine Lustig Cohen. Soon, for the Pratt Munson program, we will have the first year students, their year-end show over in the Pratt Munson Galleries, which is second floor of Fountain Elms. And then the second year show will be in the Museum of Art.
I think people would be surprised to know how, well, you mentioned the 10 acres?
10 acres and 25 buildings.
Yeah.
Right.
And you own property, Munson, on Henry Street, yes? Doesn't your...
On Henry Street, yes.
Yeah.
We do.
Do you have any plans for that?
Yes, so we have been very fortunate for 503 Henry Street to have received 2 state grants. First, we did an architectural study of what needed to be done to preserve that building. And then we have a second one, hopefully this summer, but soon we will be putting in a foundation under that building because the foundation is crumbling. So we're hoping little by little to restore that building and bring it online.
Yeah. While you were talking earlier, I was paying attention to you, but I was thinking about things. Didn't you mentioned the word decorative arts? Isn't that how you started off with
For me,
Munson?
yep. I started at Munson as a decorative arts curator.
Yeah. Is that more fun than having to do all the business too?
Well, you know, when you do all the business too, right, you have the opportunity to make those really important changes that affect the organization and have an even stronger impact on the community. And everything we do at Munson, I mean, it all is about the community. That's why we're there. That's how the founding families started us, because they knew how vital it was for a community to have an arts organization. And it's why we've been able to remain free, right? The Museum of Art, except for some special exhibitions, is free to anyone who walks in the door. And we want to maintain that. We want to increase our accessibility across the board.
Come back before summer, will you, and talk about the Summer Arts Festival?
Would love to do that.
Always
Would
a
love to
pleasure
do that.
talking with you. Thank you.
Good. Well, now people can find us. I have to put
Yeah.
this in. Munson.art.
See, that's easy.
Munson.art, right.
Okay, good. Thanks for coming in, Anna.
Thank you, Joe.
That's going to do it for us this week, but we'll be back next week. We'll do it all again. Don't forget cnyhomepage.com, because we've got a website here too, and there's a lot of good stuff there. Till next time, take care of yourself, everybody.